First-person shooters, quite possibly the biggest gaming genre out there right now. With Valorant's release just a few years ago and CS2's interesting release, it feels like FPS games are just an integral part of the internet and gaming community as a whole now. It makes sense, seeing as they've been around for this long of a time. Most people playing these games weren't even born by the time the first FPS game was released. That's strange to think about when I put it that way, don't you think? How something that feels this modern is in actuality much older than people think? And yet, how much have they really changed over time? Sure, we've had some pretty big graphics improvements over the years, but when we really get into it, what has actually changed with the gameplay? Ever since Counter-Strike has effectively normalized the idea of a 5v5 defusal-style tactical shooter, we've really only seen games follow in its footsteps, creating new gameplay mechanics and gameplay styles that all aim to change this timeless style in their own unique ways without straying too far from this path of success. So, when Spectre Divide got announced with its new duality mechanic, what was the internet to think? Were they to think it will genuinely change the defusal style of FPS games forever? Or will it just be another Valorant or Counter-Strike game to add to the pile? Well, here's my take on it. This is HQC's Spectre Divide review. Let's get some info about me out of the way first, as I feel that knowing more about me will be a good way to get a grasp on my ideals as a video game player. I'm HQC_plays, an avid video gamer and developer who's currently finishing a computer science degree in university. I'm not the most competitive gamer out there, but I do enjoy the game design aspects of things, as well as the overall artistic style of games as a whole. As for my FPS skills, I'm actually iron. Well, I'm bronze now actually, so yay me. In Valorant, but I've been playing FPS games casually for years now, so I know my way around things, despite not being great at them. Well, that's about all you need to know about me, so let's get right into the review. Spectre Divide is a first-person shooter game released, well, kinda released, it's in beta testing right now, just this year in 2024, created by Mountaintop Studios in collaboration with Shroud, the former Counter-Strike pro player and streamer. The game follows the typical two-site defusal style that has been popularized over the past couple decades by, as I said, Counter-Strike and Valorant. However, what makes this game different from the others is that instead of having a 5v5, it instead has what I would call a 3x2 versus 3x2. But what does that exactly mean? Well, it means that each team has 3 players, each with 2 characters in the game that they can play as, adding up to a total of 6 characters per team, so 6v6. The developers of the game call this mechanic duality. So how exactly does duality work? Basically, as I said, you have 2 bodies in game, each with their own unique healths and weapons. Before and during the round, you can switch between your 2 bodies whenever you want, but whichever body you aren't playing as becomes inactive, crouching in place until you switch back into it. They make this system a bit easier to manage by making it so that whenever there is an enemy within range of your inactive body, it tells you at the top of your screen. Basically, think of it as if you were playing on 2 different computers in one game. During the match, you have to switch back and forth between the computers in order to get their full values. This mechanic is extremely well done, and it plays really smoothly. It allows you to have multiple playstyles in each round depending on what guns your bodies are holding and what positions they are in at any given time. When defending, I often place one body on one site and my other body on the other site, allowing me to cover them both at the same time. On attack, I stack both bodies on the same site, but sometimes me and my teams have done weird rotate plays where we place our second bodies in a rotate ready position and switch after a quick fake. This game still has a lot of discovery to do, since this new mechanic allows for a huge departure from typical tactical FPS games, and as such, new strategies will need to be developed in order to fully take advantage of duality. Well, that's about it for what Spectre Divide is. Let's take a deep dive into what the mechanics of the game are. Let's get the most basic thing out of the way, the weapons. The weapons aren't really anything too special in Spectre Divide, but they still did their best to make an admittedly really easy to understand and really interesting system. Weapons are split into 5 tiers, each tier with 3 pairs of weapons. Each pair has one gun that is always the exact same, but the other gun in the pair is unique depending on which pair you buy. If you don't quite understand my wording, I'll be showing background footage from my stream as well in order to visually show it. When you buy a pair, one body gets one gun and the other body gets the other gun. This is important, as it means you cannot have 2 of the same gun on both your bodies without picking one up from the ground during a round. Both your bodies will necessarily have different guns when you buy them from the shop, forcing you to have different gameplay styles every round. As for the guns themselves, there's 4 pistols, a basic one, an auto, a silenced one, and a revolver, increasing in strength in that order. Though the silenced and auto ones are the same tier, but I would personally consider the silenced one to be a little bit better. For the primary weapons, there's 2 shotguns, a lot of SMGs, some machine guns, a couple ARs, with 2 of the ARs, specifically the tier 4 ARs, being the Phantom and the Vandal from Valorant, and 2 snipers, with a tier 5 sniper being this game's version of the AWP. Long story short, the weapons are generally the same as Valorant's weapons, but they will still take some time to get used to. However, the most important thing about this game's guns is that you have to aim down sights in order to be accurate. Hip firing in this game is extremely inaccurate and really only works with either shotguns or when you're literally hugging the enemy. ADSing, or aiming down sights, is a must in this game. Further, they actually made it so that when you are ADSing, you are fully accurate when you walk, meaning walking is encouraged when shooting in this game. I really like this change from the norm, as it brings the shooting more in line with Apex Legends, or excuse my French, Overwatch. Overall, the shooting in this game feels familiar, yet unique in its own way. I really love what they did with the shooting, and it really goes to show the talent that the creators of this game have, as well as the value that Shroud brought to the development of the game. Alright, onto the abilities. Abilities in this game work the same as Valorant, except that you don't actually have an ultimate ability in this game. You have 3 basic abilities that share charges between your bodies. This means that when you use one ability on one body, the charge will be depleted for both bodies. I'm actually pretty fine with this, as it makes tracking abilities much easier, and it makes the game far less chaotic than you'd otherwise expect. The way that you choose your abilities is through an agent select system before the game starts, similar to Valorant. I know I'm comparing a lot of things to Valorant, but it simply is the most accurate way to compare things in this game. As of right now, there are 8 sets of 3 abilities in the game, 4 of which you have unlocked by default, and 4 of which you have to unlock either through paying with in-game currency or by grinding through an endorsement system. That's basically a battle pass, with the max tier being the abilities getting unlocked. Once again, it's basically the same as Valorant's agent unlock. The reason that the contract system is called endorsements is because this game's abilities are called sponsors. This is because, in the lore, the game takes place as a sort of Olympic-styled competition, where the competitors have sponsors that give them technology to use during the battle. Thus, abilities are called sponsors in this game, and all abilities are technology rather than magic. As for the power of the abilities themselves, I can genuinely say that the line "abilities do not kill, guns do" is actually accurate. There are, of course, damaging abilities, but none of them really ever kill you. The utility of the abilities absolutely takes precedence over the killing power of them, and I respect the creators big time for being able to balance the game using this mindset while still making the abilities feel like they aren't useless. Lastly, let's move on to the maps and the art style of the game. The maps of Spectre Divide are not anything crazy special. Most of them are usually 3-lane styled maps with an A site, a B site, and a mid lane. However, what makes them different from the other games is that they have a ton of verticality to them. This is because during the game, you can move your inactive body by throwing a puck that will transport your body to its landing position. As expected, since you are throwing the puck, you can get it into higher up positions. The developers kept this in mind while developing maps, and made sure to include a lot of vertical positions that you can get into as long as you have both your bodies alive. Further, during the buy phase of each round, you can teleport your bodies to wherever you want on your side of the map, meaning you can teleport your bodies on top of high up positions during the pre-round setup. This is one aspect of the game that just feels natural. The game was obviously designed around this aspect, and it feels really good to play with as well. You can get so many tricky positions from this and get the upper hand over your enemies if you know how to properly utilize the verticality of the maps. It also prevents people from just staring at a single corner the entire game, as most corners will often have a couple positions that you can peek out from. This solved the entire issue of certain positions feeling impossible to push, as now that you can have multiple different places to peek from, you don't have to worry about a single angle being covered. This was a great change for casual players, but it will also lead to huge dynamicness in the pro scene of this game. The final important thing about the maps is that they have these things called reveal walls, which are usually placed down close to each spawn. When a player walks through them, their position gets revealed to the enemy until they walk back through the wall. Their entire purpose is that if a player wants to try and flank their enemies from their spawn, they can't do it without being revealed to the enemies, preventing any wacky shenanigans from happening too early into the round. The good thing, however, is that these walls drop after about 30 seconds into the round, so they aren't there forever. Reasonable minds will differ on the usefulness of these walls. As of right now, I'm pretty indifferent to their existence. I like not having to worry about getting flanked right at the start of a round, so I probably lean more towards it being a nice addition to the game, but I can understand people not liking them. Finally, let's talk about the art style of the game. The art style of the game is actually really nice looking. It has a sort of Borderlands style to it with the cell shading and outlines. It also has a bit of Apex Legends art style baked into it, but to a lesser extent. The abilities themselves are more Valorant styled, being bright and colorful in order to be visible. Overall, I really like the art style. It has a futuristic yet sort of dystopian art style that's really only seen in these futuristic styled games. It's not distracting either. What's important to see is clearly visible, and what isn't important is still well detailed and looks good. This really isn't something I'm going to talk about too much here, as my background footage definitely covers the section a bit better than my words do, so I'll let you guys decide for yourselves whether or not you like the art style or not. So, let's finish off by talking about where I think this game is headed in its future. Personally, I see this game as more of a casual game than a competitive one. Don't get me wrong, I think the competitive scene will still be really strong, but most of the changes that they have made in regards to the traditional tactical FPS genre make it feel like more of a casual experience than anything. Being able to walk around and shoot fully accurately, not being able to flank the enemies too early, and guns being pretty restrictive on purchase, all lead to the game feeling like it's just something you will hop on and just run around shooting people all day, rather than something you meticulously plan out. This might just be me, especially since I'm not really a competitive gamer, but this is just how I feel like the game leans. But there's still two big questions left to answer. Do I think the game is good, and do I think it will get popular? To both those questions, my answer is yes. I really like this game, and it's not tiring like other tactical shooters. Games are quite a bit shorter, and rounds are faster paced, and when you die, you usually have a second chance to live in that round. Overall, the game solves the issue of tactical shooters being tiring and boring when you die. It always feels like you're playing the game, and even when you are fully out of the round, you usually won't have to wait long to get to the next one. It's just a great time to not have to sit out of a game I downloaded specifically to play. Now, as for it becoming popular, I fully believe that it has the potential to become a very strong casual game for new FPS players and casual gamers alike. And with Shroud backing it, the attention it can get, and already has gotten, will only increase from here. It certainly won't be for everyone, but I know that there will be a community who will back this game, and I have a feeling it will be more casual community than anything. Thanks for watching. I've really enjoyed playing this game for the past couple days. I actually got into the early beta tests for it, so I'm lucky enough to be one of the few players who doesn't have to grind Twitch streams and Steam wishlists just to get an entrance. The last game that made me have these sort of emotions about it was actually Valorant. I remember getting my Valorant beta test key super early and being able to stream it on Twitch, back before it became a super competitive esport like it is today. There's one fear that I do have though, that this game will get ruined by its competitive player base. There's nothing wrong with being competitive, but the issue is that if a game leans too hard into being competitive, it completely ruins the gameplay for casual and new players, which in my opinion are more important due to the game having that population be such a large amount. If a game can find a happy balance between competitive and casual, then that's the best case scenario. So let's just hope that's what they can do. But seeing how capable the creators are, I have faith they will do the right thing. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel. Also follow me at twitch.tv/hqc_plays. Alright, have a good day.